y'all, it's Tiffany from Triple C Homestead, and we have some stuff to talk about. I have my handy dandy notebook here to try and keep on task because recently we have discussed the possibility of the kids and I going ahead and going back to the States and staying with some family while searching for our homestead land. Like soon. So usually this kind of stuff is my idea. I'm the one who usually has the dream and I'm like, hey, I want to do this. And then Justin will bring me back to reality, my husband. This time, kind of out of the blue, after a couple of nights of not sleeping well, whether it was the kids or it didn't feel great, he says, I have something I want to run by you. I was like, okay. And he teases me about it for a minute because he likes to keep me in suspense, which is great. I know he loves me. I hate surprises. And then he says, I want to look into you and the kids moving back to the States so that you have 12 to 18 months to find our homestead, look for the land, build a house, and go ahead and start. Whoa. Like, that's something that I would have thought of, but wouldn't dream of doing that because I like being his support system here. But if it's his idea, so in that moment, I was like, oh my goodness, 3 kids by myself with a dog. What do I do with the dog? Where do I put the kids? Do I homeschool them? Do I put them in school? Where am I gonna go to church? Where am I gonna live? All these questions just started coming into my head. And so it took me a good 48 hours, I would say, to really register that he actually wants to do this, that this is actually a thing that we probably are going to do, and digest that. Like, that's a lot. So, and I have done the by myself with the kids thing before. We lived in Georgia for a year when he was overseas, and then we went back to Tennessee and we were with his mother, my mother-in-law, and she is an angel. I love her so much. We were there for, I want to say it was just shy of 9 months, right about 9 months, and then we moved here, and we've been here for October, November, December. We've been here for 15 months. So I haven't been back to the States since we got here. Justin and Will are about to go back to the States, and I'm really excited about that because they get to see their whole family, they get to see some friends, and I'm hoping that he'll get to talk to some real estate people, maybe a broker, maybe look at some land and start to get that ball rolling. However, we're not really sure where we're going. Originally I had thought that I was being told to go to Colorado. Heard a lot of great things about Colorado. We've looked at some places in Colorado, and I'm wondering if it's just because we've never really been there, aside from maybe just a pass through. It's hard for us to find what we're looking for in Colorado. It's also hard to find that in Tennessee, unless you want to spend your entire fortune. We've thought about Texas. We've had a lot of thoughts about. So we're trying to figure out, okay, where is God calling us to go? We know what we're supposed to do, but where? That hasn't been decided yet. So top 3 contenders are Tennessee, Texas, and Colorado. So just with that knowledge of not really knowing where we're going to be, having a much shorter time frame than originally thought, and executing the go button like now, it's exciting and terrifying all at the same time. So we have a list of must-haves. Honestly, half of this is contingent on what type of house we live in. So we're just going to forget about the house. We need a house, so that's duh. We have 3 kids and I love to bake and cook, so I have to have a house with a stove of some sort. So that's obvious. We're trying to find unrestricted land that is some pasture and some woods. We know the benefits of both. We need to have a little bit of both. It would be easier to have some woods and clear them as needed versus having a huge flat, 20, 40, whatever it may be, acres and then having to wait for those trees to grow and mature. I feel like that wouldn't be as beneficial as having some woods and patiently weeding through them, growing more as we need to. So there's that. We have to have electricity of some sort. Water. Gotta have water, whether it's a well or I don't necessarily want to be close enough to have city water, but whatever that may be. Unrestricted. I want unrestricted, but I don't want to be so far out that there's nobody around us. I want the community. And then I wrote down notes like trash. What do we do about trash? What do we do about gas and gas lines and that kind of stuff? I've never bought a house. I've never done this before. So we have to know about the average rainfall and is there irrigation? And that was just kind of like our brain dump of must-have. Is like, what do we do about all this? And then we started to think about some other stuff. Well, we got to think about homeschooling. Because if we're going to live on a homestead, I don't understand why we wouldn't homeschool. I want that for my kids. I desperately want that for them. My mom homeschooled me. I loved it. And we did a bit of homesteading stuff growing up. She had a huge garden. Now, she only had 3/4 of an acre, but for us, it was a huge garden. I would say about 1/10 of our backyard was a large garden. We grew all kinds of stuff, and that was annoying for a teenager. However, looking back as an adult, I'm like, why didn't I enjoy that more? We also need to look into rules about gardening and selling our own food. Are we allowed to do that? Is there a special permit, license, something that we have to apply for? I've been hearing some mixed signals, and I'll have to search this. I think it depends on where you are, about homegrown meat birds and beef. If we decide that we want to raise some beef cattle to feed our family, if we want to raise some pigs, and we want to have a dairy cow, like that's a burning passion that I have. I really want to do that. I know it's a lot of work, but I'm really excited about it. My kids want a horse. That probably won't benefit the farm as much as anything else unless I give lessons, which I may not have time for. But I have already told them, as soon as mommy and daddy can afford it, you will have a horse. Maybe just one for the 3 of them, but there will be a horse. So that's exciting because I love horses very, very much. We have to look into things like protection. Are we allowed to have guns? I know there's been a lot of mishmash about that right now. We need to make sure that we're able to keep ourselves safe. And we have to look into construction, building, zoning codes, all that kinds of stuff. There is so much to learn about between now and when we actually purchase a property. We want to know if there's a thing like farm grants. I don't necessarily want to be doing things through the government. We've been in the military for a while. I know how that can go. It can be great. But I want to make sure that we have the freedom to do what we want to do and not be told, no, you're not allowed to do that, for a very vague reason that we may not ever know. I'll leave that aside. So, and then we started talking about the not so fun stuff, budgeting. We're trying to figure out, okay, if we buy just land, great. We still have to get a house onto the land. Do we want to do that immediately? Do we want to have the land for a while, keep an eye on it, see how it is, see how it does through the fall, spring, winter, and summer, and then plan where we want to live on the land? We got to figure out where the best soil is. Is there a chance of flooding? We got to figure out where the sun is the most, because I am a sun baby, and Germany is beautiful, don't get me wrong. We live on top of a hill, a very large hill, almost a mountain, very high up, lots of clouds, lots of rain, fog, lots of fog. Like, you can't see down this hill fog. I don't want that. I grew up in Tennessee. I'm used to it being warm. I'm used to it being annoyingly hot and humid in the summer, and I love it. So I want to make sure that our house is facing the sunshine as much as possible. Yes, it will get hot in the summer. I get that. That's when you open the windows. I'm trying to stay on subject, but this makes me so excited. Okay, budgeting. We got to figure out if we get a bunch of land that's unrestricted, that's great, it's perfect, but there's no driveway, We got to figure out what to do with the soil. We got to figure out what is more cost efficient, whether it's to have gas, diesel for Justin's future car, because we only have one truck right now. It's a gas truck. And I know gas is expensive right now. So do we need another option? We got to budget for the weeks and the months between now and then, and just try and make sure that we're staying on budget. And the things that we do purchase, we're done with Christmas. Praise God, we're done. I finished that a month and a half ago. We got to figure out how to spend wisely. So for example, if I were to say, hey, I really want this book, okay, is it cheaper to get it hardcover so I can write notes in it? Or is it cheaper to get it on my Kindle app? I have a Kindle reading thingamajigger, and just get a big notebook and just write the things along with it. Which one's more cost efficient? Which one would save my brain? Stuff like that we have to think about. I have to purge our house. Not saying I'm going to give a bunch of stuff away, but I will. But figure out what will benefit us in the future and what doesn't make sense to keep right now. The next thing we have to think about is planning. Time frames are hard, especially when you're not really sure where you're going and how you're going to get there. So, I mean, we also have to rely on the military because they're the ones who will be planning our move. If we are able to get this paperwork to go through for me and the kids to go home soon, we have to wait for the military to approve it. That in and of itself can take a while. We have to wait for them to be okay with scheduling our flights, make sure that we can get the dog on the flight, make sure that we have, I don't even think about the baggage. That's just awful. It was hard enough getting here with 2 adults, trying to go back home with just 1 and a dog. And then what else do I have to think about? Scheduling tour of properties, contact agents in the target areas, employment. That's the big one. We have to think about employment mostly for Justin, because I will be doing most of the homeschooling, homesteading, the core. I will be doing most of that. Justin will definitely be helping, obviously. We're gonna in this as a partnership, but he also is gonna have to find a job post-military to help us get on our feet until we can provide for ourselves, whether it's through, if we end up writing a book, we've talked about that a little bit, it's through a website that I'm trying to build. I'm terrible at websites, but I'm learning. We want to try and get a YouTube going just so that we can document our experience. And if people want to watch, great, the more the merrier. But we definitely have to figure that out. Like, how are we going to pay for this? What will our budget be? Because we don't know. And that's where a lot of people will be like, wait, I can't do this. I don't know how much money I'll be making. I don't want to do something, and not know. For me, that is where a huge chunk of faith comes into play. That's where you say, no, God gave me this passion for a reason. I'm not doing this stupidly. We've been praying about this for like 5 years. This is God speaking through Justin. Like, that's big. Justin has this desire to push the gas pedal. Usually it's me. Because it's coming from him, that's telling me, hey, God's trying to talk to you and you're not listening. So he's speaking to you through your husband. Pay attention. Something's about to happen. So for me, this is okay, God's saying, let's go. We're going to do this. And God will provide. Whatever that looks like, I don't know. But God's going to provide and it's going to be great. And it's almost one of those things where if you don't do it, you're going to miss out on something. So it's like a crisis of faith, which is a really cool thing because I've been learning about that in a Bible study. When you have that moment where you're like, I don't know if I want to let go of these reins and give it to God, you're about to miss out on something if you don't. Because if you give him those reins and say, okay, you know what, this is yours anyways, here. And you just step back and watch and see what happens next. It is so cool. Usually something really amazing happens if you're willing to take that leap of faith. So So yeah, those are all the big things that we have to think about. And then just little reminders I started writing down just to keep me excited, because sometimes I get tunnel vision in the what ifs. I'm really good at that. I'm A plus tunnel vision. So reminders to keep me excited, to keep us excited. We get to grow our own food. We will know where that food has come from, and it will be safe for all of us. We get to take care of our own land, which to a lot of people sounds like work, not enjoyable. Yeah, it's gonna be work, but it's enjoyable work. Learning by experience. Y'all, I have been learning through YouTube videos and books, not through experience. I have been learning how to handle raw milk, because praise God they do that in Germany. So I have learned a lot about how to process raw milk. I still have very, very minimal experience when it comes to storing food. I don't have the machinery to really can stuff. I could do water bath canning, but by the time I got it canned, I ended up using it. So right now I'm sticking with the freezing method. So learning by experience, like hands-on experience with chickens. I am stoked about that. I know it's a lot of work, but I am so excited for that. Will wants to have rabbits. I'm excited for that because that will help with the soil. And I want a cow, and I know that's a lot of work because you have to milk the cow daily, and probably will have a calf, which means you have to teach the calf how to be handled for their future. That's exciting. The kids want a horse. I am thrilled. Like, that's my dream. I've always wanted to have a horse farm. So I don't think we're gonna actually go with a horse farm per se, but we will have, I know we'll have Dancer, and we might have one or two other horses too. That is super exciting for me, just because God put that passion in my life for a reason. I can't wait to see why, you know? Anyways, we said about chickens, pigs. I have been learning a lot about that from some YouTubing people that I watch. I've learned a lot. It's really good stuff. We want to have a fireplace or a wood burning stove. Personally, very selfishly, I've always wanted a wood burning stove. Very old fashioned, very large. It's just, yeah, something like that. We'll see. And then just something for me to keep in mind is keep your homesteader's mindset. Like, just keep thinking about the fact that you're gonna have nutrient-rich food, and it's gonna be homegrown, and it's gonna be safe. That's exciting. So that's where we're at. And I don't know what the next step is gonna be. I don't know what the next 5 steps are gonna be. But I do know something's gonna happen, and we are excited to see what that is. So that's all I have for now. I'm going to go be normal and do dishes. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys.